Hello, I'm Darrell Jabin with a story about Oregon amusement parks. We'll find out about the history of amusement parks, how they evolved into the parks we have today. We'll find out about the first American park and some very special ones here in Oregon, including one that was the largest one in the nation when it opened. One that provided spectacular views to the Portland area, and one that may be the longest continuously operating park in the United States. We'll also find out about things you may not know originated at amusement parks. So why are we here in a beautiful garden like this? Well, this isn't just any garden, it's the Oregon Garden. Just outside of Silverton, Oregon, it's an 80-acre botanical garden. Amusement parks actually got their start from gardens. Back in the 1600s, there was a famous international garden called Vauxhall. It lasted almost 200 years. It was a place where families could stroll, could enjoy sports, activities, music, and spectacles like balloon ascensions and parachute jumps. After the closure of Vauxhall, a park in Vienna started capturing more attention. It was called the Prater and covered over 2,000 acres of woods and park. They hosted the 1873 World's Fair. It was there that visitors had an opportunity to see new amusement machines and rides, and it started changing the pleasure garden of the past into a faster, noisier, more exciting type of park that we have today. It was generally considered that one of the first large American amusement resorts was an area that possibly looked like this. It was called Jones's Woods. It was in New York City on Manhattan Island. It was 150 acres. It was where they had some simple spectator sports, such as wrestling and foot races. They also had contests of skill, such as bowling, billiards, and shooting galleries. There was music and dancing in this particular area, and one of the things they had was, of course, refreshments. And one of the most popular was beer. It was where we started getting the idea of calling it a beer garden. Carousels also originated at amusement parks. The first one at Coney Island was built by Charles Looff. He built many carousels, including one at Seattle's Luna Park. The first one he created was built from the scrap wood from his job at a furniture maker. To learn about hot dogs, we went to somebody who's had more than 30 years experience serving hot dogs, Casey Campbell of Casey's Hot Dogs.
Well, welcome to Casey's Hot Dogs. Americans eat about 16 billion dogs a year. It averages out to about 60 dogs per person per year. The story I got is how the hot dog got started was the fact that a gentleman back east they had an expo fair there, and the sausage was so new to the United States that he actually gave the person a glove to eat it with, so that he could, you wouldn't get it stained with the oils, and it was too hot to handle. Well, in a matter of probably a half a day, he ran out of gloves altogether, so he had to call his brother-in-law, who just happened to be a baker. And the baker was able to produce a long shaped bun, which immediately he threw on the dog. They threw some mustard on it, and that was probably the start of what my story is anyway would be.
One of the first places the Oregonians had for amusement was the Oregon State Fair. It opened in Clackamas County in 1861 and moved to Salem in 1862. It was a place where you could show off your animals, learn about crafts, learn about cultures, or perhaps compete in a contest. Maybe just meet a new friend. You could see horses and riders compete at the Horse Show Stadium, or see a variety of poultry at the Poultry Building. The Oregon State Fair did have its own amusement rides as well as its own midway.
Those rides entertained people for decades, until a date in 1967, when buildings caught fire and burned the Midway. Since then, a private company has provided the amusement rides. For the last few decades, that company has been Fantastic Shows. We had a chance to talk to Ron Burback, who has been involved in the amusement and carnival business for more than 60 years, about the history of Oregon amusement parks.
The way they built the parks, of course, was to have a place for the railroads to go. Build a park, or they built Oaks Park, and then you'd go down on 3rd Avenue, and you'd get on the train, and you'd go out to Oaks Park.
Oaks Park was not the only amusement area to benefit from trolley lines. The newest amusement rides at the time, rides such as the Loop-the-Loop and Shoot-the-Chutes, were at an area that were served by 2 trolleys. The location was Gilds Lake in northwest Portland. It was where the Lewis and Clark Centennial Exposition and Oriental Fair was held in 1905. It was there that 21 nations and 16 states set up exhibits, and the fair brought in more tourists to ride the rides and see the exhibits than Oregon ever had seen before. We've talked about fairs, but what about actual Oregon amusement parks?
The first big one was, of course, up on Council Crest. And those people up there are the ones that built Jantzen Beach.
Council Crest is a park in southwest Portland, and on clear days you can see a number of mountains along with the valley that surrounds the area. It was named Council Crest because it was believed that Native Americans met there in order to have council meetings. That may or may not have been true. The park took advantage of the scenic area by offering a scenic railway, a boat ride that circled the park, and a big tree observatory, which had an elevator that went to the highest point in the town. The park closed down in 1929.
Jantzen was $1 million playground. I mean, that was the finest amusement park in the United States at that time. It had the huge Olympic swimming pools and the coaster, and it was quite a park.
In 1926, the Jantzen Knitting Mills, the manufacturers of the Jantzen Swimmer line, created the Jantzen Swimming Association in order to promote swimming safety and swimming instruction. In 1927, they invested in the Hayden Island Amusement Company in order to build the perfect pool at Portland's 112-acre, $1 million playground, the Jensen Beach Amusement Park. It opened on May 26, 1928, and over 15,000 people showed up on the first day. The first year, they had over 600,000 paid admissions and turned away over 400,000 people. It entertained millions over its 4 decades of operation. You can still find some memorabilia from it, as well as one of the rides at Jantzen Beach Supercenter. And we had a chance to talk to a longtime Portland resident about it.
My folks moved here in 1939, and I was about 6 years old. And my folks brought me to Jantzen Beach. The first time we came here was to go on the Midway, you know, big enough stuff for a 6-year-old. And then we've been here probably at least once or twice a year when I was a kid. And I ended up coming here as a teenager, swimming in the big swimming pool, diving off the diving board, and of course riding the roller coaster as much as possible. And they did have a racetrack here, and they had dirt track races here. So we went to a couple of those with my dad. Of course, as a teenager, they had dances here with the big band. I remember Artie Shaw brought his band here one time, and me and my date came and danced. I was about 15 years old, 16 years old. I remember my mom had to drop us off and pick us up. But it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. Yeah.
What was your favorite ride?
The roller coaster. I used to ride that as much as I could. That was a real thrill, especially that first one, you know. You get in the car and it goes clickety, 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 click, and then whee, away you go. That was cool.
You can relive some of those memories from Jantzen Beach by riding on the 1921 C.W. Parker Company Carousel. It is the last remaining Oregon ride from the Jantzen Beach Amusement Park. There was an amusement park that rivaled Jantzen Beach. It was called Lotus Isle. It also was along the Columbia River and was just east of Jantzen Beach. One of the rides was a giant bulldog over the scooter cars, the bumper cars. And they had Tusco, the elephant, who was 12 feet tall and weighed 10 tons. A fire at the Lotus Isle Dance Hall and a rampage by Tusco caused the park too many financial problems, and they closed down in the early 1930s, just a few years after they opened up. Oregon does have one of the longest continuously operating amusement parks in the nation. It's been open for more than 100 years. It is the Oaks Amusement Park. First started in 1905.
Go down on 3rd Avenue and you get on the train and you go out to Oaks Park. I didn't even know there was a road into Oaks Park until years and years went by and they stopped running the trains.
Oaks Amusement Park opened on May 30th, 1905, just 2 days before the Lewis and Clark Exposition did. Its roller rink has been there since the start and is one of the oldest and largest west of the Mississippi. It also has an historic dance pavilion. The roller rink and dance pavilion are available year-round, but the rides, like the rock and roll, the scooter cars, and the Lewis and Clark Big Adventure, along with plenty of others, are open only during the summertime. But there you can ride the Spider, the Toon Cars, and take a scenic tour with the train. The Carousel is the oldest one in the state. It was built in 1912. If you go, make sure you find out about Ginger the giraffe. There's a special story about her being adopted by a 4th grade class.
When I was a kid, we used to go dancing at Blue Lake Park out there. They had a dance hall and they had about 5 rides.
Blue Lake Park is east of Portland in Multnomah County. It is easy to see why thousands of people are drawn to this area every summer to play on the ball fields, picnic, and swim. In the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, there were similar areas. There was Avalon and Romer's Rest along the Tualatin River, and Paradise Island down in Salem. Some of these names remain, but the businesses there are quite different. These areas offered people the opportunity to get away from the heat and let children ride on some simple amusement rides. As communities built swimming facilities, the attendance at these parks declined. If you're old enough, you might remember these large rides, the Bear Cave rides, that were part of the Jantzen Beach Amusement Park. But before that, they were part of Pixieland, an amusement park that was close to Lincoln City in the Central Oregon coast.
It was a first-class park. The problem was it couldn't overcome the ocean. It had been built on the ocean where the Pixieland restaurant was. It would have done quite well.
Pixie Kitchen changed hands over a number of years, but it was an owner of the Pixie Kitchen that decided to create Pixieland just a few miles away and brought in some people from Disneyland in order to help him out. Unfortunately, in spite of an opening ceremony that included Governor Tom McCall, they closed down after just a few years.
When we opened one Sunday, I just had a piece of butcher paper and we put open on it and hung it on the sign, and we got about, I think it was 75 people that day, and I was running ahead of them putting light bulbs in the mine, and we were pretty excited.
Roger Tofty, the owner, creator, and artist of the Enchanted Forest theme park, just a few miles south of Salem, is talking about its beginnings almost 40 years ago.
The local paper, The Statesman, had a big picture of the castle on the front page. It took about half the page. And so next weekend, I think we had 1,500 people. I was coming up with different ideas, but down at work, they kept kidding me. Oh, after I got going about 3 years, they started saying, well, how's Idiot Hill doing, or how's the Funny Farm doing? No, I kept throwing around ideas, and I thought Enchanted Forest fit the theme better out here.
It did indeed fit the theme, and along with Roger Tofte's drawings and his artwork, they were able to create the Seven Dwarfs house. The huge shoe from the old woman in the shoe. And the head of the Wicked Witch.
When did Toftyville come along?
That was about the second or third year. We put that up one winter, and I had about 2 or 3 of my friends come out, put that up, and from there we kept adding different places.
Was the haunted house next, or?
Yeah, I think that was next, the haunted house. And I think after a while, and then we had the Ice Mountain, and then we put in the English Village. Oh, and then the log ride.
Enchanted Forest is continuing to add rides. The most recent one is a fantasy one called the Challenge of Mondor. And it's quite likely that you will find Roger Tofte continuing to add his artwork to the finished product. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your tour through Oregon amusement parks.